The photographs fell onto the table like weapons, one after another, their glossy edges reflecting the light from the chandelier as they glided across the mahogany surface. Jessica didn't toss them, she showcased them, as if revealing evidence in a trial she had long anticipated. In every picture, I was caught mid-laugh, leaning in, a hand brushing against someone's sleeve, innocent gestures that became incriminating when displayed like this. A silence enveloped the dining room, interrupted only by the sharp intake of breath from my mother-in-law, Eleanor. "See for yourself," Jessica whispered, pretending to be sorrowful as her gaze shifted to my husband. While Samuel was toiling away at work, she was entertaining other men. Her hand rested on his shoulder, her fingers lingering just a moment too long. On his other side, Jessica remained quiet, her demeanor rehearsed, her guilt conveniently hidden from everyone but me. Jessica's eyes sparkled with victory as she delivered her final strike. "Now, you needn't feel guilty about Jessica, and you certainly don't have to give Emma anything in the divorce. My name is Emma Sullivan. I'm 32 years old. And this is the tale of how I transformed my husband's family's betrayal into the most significant lesson they would ever learn." The family I had dedicated 8 years to gathered around those photographs like vultures. Evelyn picked one up with shaking fingers, her voice quivering with feigned disappointment. "Emma, how could you? We embraced you as part of our family. Once, her words would have pierced me deeply. Now, I merely observed her act with a clinical detachment. What do you have to say for yourself?" Jessica challenged, one hand on her hip, the other dramatically gesturing at the evidence laid out before everyone. I took a slow, deliberate sip of water, my gaze sweeping across the table. Samuel still wouldn't look at me. His parents appeared suitably devastated, though I noticed his father, George, seemed more uneasy than angry. Jessica stood tall, her posture exuding righteousness. "Nice pictures," I replied calmly. "The lighting is excellent. You must have paid your private investigator a significant amount." Jessica's victorious smile wavered. This wasn't the emotional denial she had planned for this moment. "Is that all you have to say?" she retorted. "You're not even going to refute it?" I dug into my purse, sensing the tension in the room, everyone anticipating tears or maybe a frantic confession. Instead, I set my tablet on the table, its screen dark and shiny against the wood. Why would I deny it? My tone was calm. Those men are all divorce attorneys. The ensuing silence was complete. "What?" Jessica stammered, her composure beginning to crumble. I pointed to each photo with precision. "That's James Morrison, the top family lawyer in the city. This is Michael Turner. His firm focuses on infidelity cases. And this dinner, that's William Parker. He's particularly adept at managing situations where individuals attempt to conceal assets before a divorce." Jessica's complexion faded. Samuel suddenly became very interested in his water glass. "You see," I continued, "when I uncovered Samuel and Jessica 3 months ago, I made sure to prepare thoroughly." "You're lying," Jessica countered. But doubt had taken the place of her assurance. I powered on my tablet, revealing emails and signed contracts. The great thing about legal consultations is that there's always paperwork. I methodically scrolled through the documents. "But that's not even the most intriguing part," I added, finally meeting Samuel's gaze. "What do you mean?" Arabella's voice quivered. "Well," I said, "during one of these meetings, I discovered something intriguing about recent property transactions within this family. A lot of money and properties changing hands, new businesses being established." I allowed the implications to linger in the air. George shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Samuel frowned, looking at his father. "Dad, is that why you had me sign those documents last month? You claimed it was just routine family matters." I observed the realization wash over his face. His family wasn't merely assisting him in cheating, they were methodically concealing assets prior to the divorce. "Samuel, sweetheart, we were only looking out for you," Arabella started. "Actually," I interrupted her. "You were engaging in fraud." I offered a thin smile. "And my lawyers have recorded everything." Jessica sank into a chair, the mastermind of her flawless trap, now caught in her own web. "You knew," she murmured. "You knew all along." I nodded while gathering my things. "Next time you hire a private investigator, ensure they're not working for both parties." I stood up, smoothing my dress. "Oh, and Samuel, your lawyer will get the paperwork tomorrow. You might want to read it thoroughly, especially the section regarding fraud." As I reached the door, I glanced back at Jessica. "Thanks for the photos. They'll serve as excellent evidence." My heels clicked against the floor like a metronome as I exited. It wasn't until I reached my car that I allowed myself a small, private smile. They believed they had ensnared me, but they were completely unaware of what was about to unfold. The following days erupted in chaos. My phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Samuel's family. Threats intertwined with tearful appeals. Jessica oscillated between fury and fear, her texts becoming increasingly frantic. "You can't do this to us. We were family," her latest message read. That term, family, echoed in my thoughts. They hadn't treated me like family when they were plotting to leave me with nothing. I archived her message without a reply and concentrated on my preparations. James Morrison's law office exuded the exact power it aimed to convey. Polished wood, soft leather chairs, and an air of quiet authority. I reviewed documents in the conference room while waiting for the others to arrive. Right on cue, Samuel walked in with his lawyer, followed by Arabella and George. Jessica lagged behind, trying to appear confident but failing visibly. "Mrs. Mitchell," James acknowledged me with a professional nod. "Shall we get started?" I observed Samuel's reaction as James systematically laid out our evidence. He noticeably paled when we revealed our timeline. Every questionable property transfer, every quickly established company, every intentional effort to conceal funds. Eleanor gripped his arm when James brought up possible criminal charges. "This is absurd," protested Samuel's lawyer. "These were just typical family business decisions." "Were they?" I inquired, pushing forward a pile of documents. "Because these records indicate that my name was taken off family business assets exactly 3 months ago, right when Samuel started his affair. Quite a coincidence, wouldn't you agree?" George shifted uneasily. He had always been the weakest link, too worried about his social reputation to risk a public scandal. "Now," James continued, "we are ready to be reasonable. Mrs. Mitchell contributed to this family's success. She merely wants her fair share." "Fair share," Jessica retorted. "She's trying to destroy us." I turned to her, keeping my cool. "No, Jessica, I'm safeguarding what I helped build." I paused. "Would you like me to play the recording of you and Samuel discussing how to prevent the gold digger from getting anything?" Her face turned pale. Samuel's head jerked up. "You recorded us?" "No," I answered calmly. "Your mistress did." "Jessica was quite cooperative once I showed her evidence that you were planning to discard her as well. Once you secured your assets, the room erupted." Eleanor broke down in tears. George insisted on speaking with his personal lawyer. Jessica yelled about betrayal. Throughout it all, I remained silent, watching my husband come to terms with how completely he had been outmaneuvered. "Here's what's going to happen." James spoke over the turmoil, his voice demanding immediate quiet. "We have documented proof of attempted fraud. We can take this criminally or we can come to a reasonable settlement today. It's your choice." Samuel's lawyer asked for a moment with his client. As they huddled in the corner, I could see the fight leaving Samuel's body. He had always been arrogant, sure of his own cleverness, but now he appeared drained. "We'll come to a fair agreement," his lawyer finally declared. "That's great," James said with a smile. "Mrs. Mitchell has already laid out her expectations," he continued. He handed out copies of my settlement proposal. I had been meticulous, yet not spiteful. I sought only what I had contributed to, nothing beyond that. "This is absurd," Arabella shouted. However, George gently placed a hand on her arm. "Sign it, Samuel," he urged softly. We can't afford for this to leak out. As Samuel reached for the pen, Jessica made one final, desperate plea. Wait, those photos. They were taken in public spaces. She was showcasing these meetings. I couldn't help but chuckle quietly. Of course, they were public. I wanted you to notice them. Every lunch, every coffee meeting, I was aware you had me followed. I simply ensured your investigator captured precisely what I wanted you to see. The realization that they had been outsmarted in their own game finally rendered them speechless. One by one, the documents were signed. As James collected the paperwork, I stood up to leave. Emma, Samuel called, his tone unusual. When did you become so strategic? I hesitated at the door. I learned from the best, didn't I? Family taught me. The irony was evident to everyone present. As I exited the office, I felt lighter than I had in months. Sometimes, the best form of revenge isn't merely about winning, it's about demonstrating that they underestimated you all along. Outside, the autumn air was fresh and invigorating. My phone vibrated with a message from Jessica. It's done. Thank you for revealing the truth about him to me. I smiled, recalling how effortlessly Samuel's mistress had turned into my ally once I presented her with evidence of his behavior, his promises to her, and his intentions to discard her, just like he did with me after securing his fortune. Sometimes, the strongest partnerships arise from the most unexpected sources. As I drove home, I reflected on family, not the one that had betrayed me, but the one I would now create for myself on my own terms. 6 months post-settlement, I found myself on the balcony of my new apartment, sipping coffee and watching the city come to life. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, casting long shadows in my newly decorated living room, emphasizing the fresh beginning I had made. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a message from Jessica of all people. Despite everything, we had managed to keep an unexpected friendship. You won't believe who I just spotted at Riverside Cafe. Jessica, she actually tried to act like she didn't notice me. I chuckled, recalling how completely the family had fallen apart after our encounter. Their meticulously crafted image of a perfect family business had crumbled under the pressure of their own schemes. George had retired early, citing health problems, but everyone was aware it was to escape the gossip at his beloved country club. Evelyn had immersed herself in charity work, desperately trying to uphold their social reputation. Jessica perhaps faced the toughest reality check. Her involvement in the attempted fraud had cost her job in the family business. The last I heard, she was working as a junior accountant at a small firm, a significant downgrade from her previous executive position. My phone rang. It was James Morrison. Emma, he greeted me warmly. I just wanted to inform you that the last of the transfers are done. Everything is officially settled. Thank you, James, for all your help. You know, he said thoughtfully, in all my years of practicing law, I've never seen someone manage betrayal with such strategic finesse. Have you ever thought about changing careers? I laughed, but his words struck a chord. In outsmarting Samuel and his family, I uncovered parts of myself I never knew were there. Strength, cleverness, and the ability to anticipate several moves ahead. Later that afternoon, I met Laura, my closest friend, for lunch. She had been my support through everything, one of the few who knew the entire story from the start. Have you heard? She asked, sliding into her seat. Samuel's been demoted. Apparently, some of his business choices during the divorce drama didn't sit well with the board. I shook my head. I'm not surprised. He always believed he was smarter than everyone else. Speaking of intelligence, Laura leaned in closer. How is the new business going? After the settlement, I utilized a portion of my funds to establish a consulting firm, assisting other women in navigating complicated divorces and financial conflicts. It felt fulfilling to use my experiences to help others safeguard themselves. We're growing, I mentioned, unable to conceal my pride. We opened a second office just last week. Look at you, Laura beamed. From being caught off guard by your husband's betrayal to managing your own business. Who would have imagined? I thought about the woman I had been a year prior, trusting, naive, and ready to believe in family loyalty above everything else. That woman was no longer here, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, yet not resentful. If anything, I felt thankful for the lessons I had learned. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Eleanor. I miss you. The family isn't the same without you. I archived it without replying. Some bridges, once burned, should remain that way. That evening, while I was reviewing applications for my firm's mentorship program, I contemplated how much life had transformed. The family that had attempted to ruin me had, in fact, set me free. Their efforts to leave me with nothing had driven me to become more than I had ever envisioned. The doorbell rang. It was Jessica with a bottle of wine. Our monthly catch-up sessions had turned into a bit of a tradition. To Karma, she lifted her glass, settling onto my couch. By the way, Samuel is dating someone new. The poor girl has no clue what she's getting into. Should we give her a heads up? I asked, half in jest. Jessica chuckled. Something tells me she'll figure it out herself. Besides, I hear she's quite savvy with computers. Maybe she'll catch on quicker than we did. We exchanged a knowing glance. Sometimes, the best form of revenge isn't about settling scores. It's about moving ahead while watching karma take its course. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange hue through my windows, I felt a sense of tranquility. The family that had tried to dismiss me as naive had imparted the most important lesson of all. Never underestimate a person who has nothing to lose. My new life was not founded on revenge or resentment. Instead, it was established on wisdom, strength, and the understanding that often the most painful betrayals can lead to the most wonderful new beginnings. I lifted my glass to the setting sun, quietly expressing my gratitude to them for showing me who I could truly become. The tale of how my husband's family attempted to ruin me became the spark for my most significant transformation. At times, the most effective revenge isn't about settling scores. It's about improving oneself.